Remember this place? A stadium that was full of hope and excitement in the build-up to a semi-final appearance at a major tournament. But ultimately, it's the place where the adventure of all adventures for Welsh football came to an end. But the Welsh Dragon is still roaring here in Lyon, a city full of culture, wonderful architecture and incredible food and wine. And a city where Wales' most capped footballer ever has come to re-energise her career. It's time to get to know Jess Fishlock.
Hey, Owen, how are you?
Okay?
Yeah, great. Want a coffee?
Yeah, why not? Thank you.
No problem. Come
What
in.
a beautiful space.
This is my lovely home.
It's nice, isn't it?
Espresso?
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Very
That's great.
French.
I know. That's why I got it. Trying to be friends. Bonjour.
Yeah?
Yeah. It relaxes me. So even if I drink it at night, it relaxes me so much that I can just stop my head turning and whatever.
Well, Jess, here we are in your beautiful Lyon apartment. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really nice. One of my favourites.
Yeah, I had a loan move to Brentford. It was 2 months in a hotel.
Obviously, I've gone around and, I use the same, gone from club to club to club. And for me, living in a hotel is just not an option. I need to be comfortable, and you're going to get me at my best if I'm comfortable and when I'm settled. And I was in the hotel for a week and it was driving me insane. So I don't know how you dealt with that.
How is life in Lyon?
It's good. I really enjoy it. The city is beautiful. It's only like 5 minutes down that way, and then I go back on myself 20 minutes to get to training, which is really not that far. I have been pleasantly surprised by how much I'm enjoying Lyon.
Are you the sort of person that dives straight in terms of trying to learn little bits of the lingo and just cultural things that are maybe relevant to France?
I think the way that I see it is I've come here in their country. They've invited me. They've let me in and really taken care of me. And for me to just ignore their culture would be very rude and naive of me, actually. The language is really hard for me personally. I try to at least learn the football lingo because to speak it is just really difficult. But yeah, the way that they live, I definitely try and at least join in their culture because I appreciate it a lot.
What is that like, in terms of your training during the game? Obviously, I've played with different people with different languages, but English was always the main language, whereas in a foreign country, very, very different.
It was very interesting when I first arrived because the coach doesn't speak any English. The assistant coach's English is not that great. The goalkeeper's coach's English is not that great. And obviously I don't know many people, so, obviously you just keep quiet and try and get on with just the football. And so the first couple of weeks were probably the most difficult as it's just completely natural. But then slowly and surely our team is very international. And then I think right now it probably is we speak more English, as in within the group.
And you've always been a travelling footballer, so Australia, America, obviously English speaking, France, Germany. Did you decide early on that you wanted to travel, or is it something that you felt you had to do?
It was something I felt I had to do. I mean, when I was growing up back home, women's football was nothing, and I had to leave, and it's not something that I wanted to do. If I could have stayed home and been as successful or played at the highest level, then yeah, of course I'd have stayed home. My family are there, my friends are there, everyone I grew up with, but it was impossible for me. So yeah, I had to leave, and when I had the chance to go to Holland to play, which was my first kind of pro situation, I think I left within 2 weeks. I was working full time and I just given my resignation and just left everything.
Where were you working?
For O2.
O2, yeah?
Yeah, the phone company. So ask me anything, I'll tell you what you need to know about phones.
A young girl wanting to play football, you're talking about that pathway, but was that pathway obvious? Did you know America is the ultimate goal, or were you just, right, Holland is the first step, I don't know where the next step is going to be? Or was there that ultimate goal?
No, the ultimate goal was America. When I grew up, it was all anybody spoke about.
Okay.
It was where you wanted to go if you wanted to play women's football at the highest level. America is the dream, It was literally here, this was me, this was America. How am I going to get there? I think the thing that sums it up was my move to Holland to play in their first pro league for AZ at that point came from me playing against Holland national team for Wales. So it's not like you would know whatever with the men's game when it's club v club, you know, you get scouted because you play so well consistently for your club. It was, I played well in one game against Holland, and I was lucky that the assistant manager for the national team was going to become the head coach of this first professional team and league in Holland at that time. Some of it's just pure luck, you know, because what if he wasn't the assistant at that time? Yeah. What if I had a terrible game that game? I don't get that chance, you know?
Yeah.
But the rest of it, you know, is not luck, it's hard work. But you have to have those moments where everything comes together. And I had that moment when we played against Holland, and I moved to Holland for 3 years. And that was the hardest thing for me. You know, I mean, live in France now and having a language barrier is almost funny to me now. But back then, the language barrier in Holland when I was like 18, I think, was just unbearable.
And now at 32, you've probably found yourself, you've found your personality.
Exactly.
When you're that age, you don't know what you're stepping into.
You don't know anything, literally like nothing. Yeah. You don't know anything from just a person perspective, let alone how I go now and live in a completely different culture, language. I don't even, like you say, I don't even know who I am or what I'm doing, let alone everything else that was going on.
So do you mean you just felt lonely?
Yeah.
You felt, why am I here? Why have I moved away from family?
Yeah, and they played a completely different way of football. So I had to, everything that I knew about football, I had to rip up, throw it in the bin and start again. So sometimes I was just really bad at it, you know? So it was like, wait, they wanted me to come here because they liked the way I played, but then they want to change everything, you know? You know, it took, I think, 3 months for me to get my first paycheck too. So I had gone there as a kid. I left my job, so I had no money at that time, literally no money. At one day I couldn't even afford the train back home, so I had to walk in the snow for a very long time, freezing. And I was just like, what am I doing? Yeah. Like this can't be it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually rang my mum, bawled my eyes out, and she was like, you can't leave, you know? And I was like, but
she didn't want you home?
No, so she said basically, she's like, if you come home and if you give up on everything that you've ever wanted, this is not the house for you.
Okay.
And I was like, you can't say that to me, I'm your daughter. And she's like, this is everything you have spoken about since you were a kid. She was like, if you come home, you come home, but this is not the home for you. So then I was like, well, I can't go home because I've got nowhere to go. So I'll stay. And then by month 6, I was having the best time of my life.
Isn't it crazy when you go to a new club, just the smallest thing, like a passing drill that you've never done before, can be so difficult. Yeah. So you're a footballer, you've played football all your life, but this one passing drill, but then with repetition, it becomes normal.
Yeah.
And you look back and think, why did I struggle with that so much? Yeah. But it can play with your mind.
Yeah. And you do, like, I think it was the first time when I went to Holland that I questioned my ability again, you know? Back home when I was playing for Wales or wherever, I didn't question it at all. But then I went to Holland and it was so different. And I was like, can I even play football? Like, was this whole thing, like, has it just been a joke or, you know? But I'm extremely thankful to Holland and to my coach, Ed, because he invested a lot of time in me and he changed the way I viewed football and the way I played it. And it changed my career, really, you know, because I became somebody different. And I think it's really it's made me still different now. So even the things he taught me then make me the player that I am now, which is very different to normal midfielders, I think.
Now, football from that point to where it is now in the women's game has moved on an incredible amount, and you've been part of that revolution. Has there been a moment that you found things are changing here? Was it the last campaign for Wales, or was there something before?
I think back home, personally for us, yes, the last campaign was sensational for change. And not just from a football perspective, but I actually think it's changed the nation and their outlook on women and the next generations, which I think is probably far more important than our actual campaign, which is crazy. I never thought that I would ever say that, you know, but I never thought that we would be able to do enough powerful things that we would change a nation. But being a part of what we did last year and the year before that is so special to me besides the football, despite the football, if that makes sense. Which is special.
How is it for you to look back? Because believe it or not, it was exactly the same for us in terms of the change that we had with the international setup, how things were run behind the scenes, whether that's facilities, whether that's the food you eat, the places that you stay. It was incredible to see and witness that firsthand. For you, you must have thought, you were probably like a Ryan Giggs, if you like. He probably looks back and thinks, God, I wish things were like they were at my club. Whereas you, playing over in America and seeing things done properly, coming back to Wales and things weren't, frustrating.
You have to get the expectation and the standards. The balance between that has to be right. Otherwise, you're never going to make change. But you also can't be silly with what you're actually asking and what you're expecting. So with Wales, I think for myself and a lot of the older ones over the last 2-3 years, we've really got the balance between expectation and standards right. And I think that's why we have managed to create the changes that we've been able to create off the field. You know, we have had a lot more backing from the FAW with regards to our travel and our hotels and our food, you know, things that we saying and talking about for a long, long time. So those things for me actually sometimes are a bigger win than does what happens on the park, because those are the things that in 5 years when the girls are there, you know, it's much better, then the football gets better, and then they do qualify for European, you know. And I think that we're lucky now with Jane, and I feel it's the same with when Gary Speed was there and Chris and now Ryan, is that the men's and the women's, when you have someone in charge who has played, they get it. They get what it's like, you know. And I don't think it's a coincidence that both teams have done significantly better when ex-players have become in charge.
The senior players now, yourself, Lauren, who's your big friend, I hear, for you to see that change, but be a part of it, there must be a sense of pride in that as well.
Yeah, 100%. When we had our names on our kit in January for Italy, like, no word of a lie, there was about 4 of us, the older ones, that were like really tearful. Yeah. Right? And I could only imagine one of the kids being like, why are they getting upset? Like, you know, what's wrong with these girls? And I understand that. But then for us, I'm like, it's taken over 10 years for this. You know, and that's not a slight at the FAW at all. I don't mean it that way. I just mean that we have been here for that long, and finally, this is what we get. And to the kids, I was like, you will never understand this moment. And I'm grateful that you don't ever have to understand this moment, you know, because for as long as your career is now, you always had names on the back of your jerseys, which you should have. Yeah. I was like, but for 10 to 12 years, we never did. And, you know, me and Laws and Helen and Tash, we were, you know, I think there's one of the proudest moments I've had in a Welsh environment. You know, I've had many, and that's definitely up there.
You obviously want more eyes on your sport. You want more publicity, but you need that success to get it, don't you?
Exactly.
You can't just get it automatically. No. Something has to happen, and the last campaign was it, even though ultimately you fell at the last hurdle.
Yeah, exactly. And it's true, you know, if we want to keep going to the FAW or the sponsors and be like, we need this and we need this, and, you know, then we have to show them why. Why are they gonna just say, yes, we're going to give you this budget, we're going to give you this budget. And I think the last campaign really showed everybody in Wales who are making these decisions that there's a real chance here that this group can qualify for the Euros, and further on from that. And they should back it and give it really, I guess, one last push before a lot of us say our goodbyes.
Yeah.
But we have to show them. And I think that's what the last campaign really did. It really showed them that not only is it a possibility, but women's sport, women's football especially, is something that needs to really be taken seriously at this moment in time.
Back for you personally, you had that little voice in the back of your mind that was telling you, is this the time now after the last campaign to step away from the international setup? Why did you decide that wasn't the case?
Well, basically after the England game that we lost, I was devastated. Like I was heartbroken. I think it was the one real heartbreak that I have felt, that I've not felt before, that I didn't know how to process. You know from playing that you lose games and you've done it before, and so you know how to process it. You know how to process things that you've done, that has happened to you before. This had never happened before, and so even at 30, 31, I think I was, I was just lost. Like I truly was lost, and I didn't want to watch anything. I didn't want to be anywhere, let alone be at the forefront, like you say, of these games, which I was and which I'm supposed to be. And, the media is there, and it's Fishlock, and it's the rain, and it's in Portland. And it's just, there I was, and I was just like, I just want to be in bed. Like, I don't want to do anything right now. Initially, my reaction was, I'm done. I'm definitely done at international level. I don't know where I was at club, but definitely. And Jane was like, take some time. Don't make a decision right now. And my mum said the same thing. Don't ever make decisions when you're emotional. That's my mother's motto. So I was like, right, okay, well, I don't even know how to deal with this emotion. So, what am I going to do? And then Lyon happened. And I said to Jane, I'm going to go to Lyon. Don't take me to the October, November camps. Let me have some time when I'm in a new environment. Let me just be okay. Let me find myself a little second. And then I'll call you in January, and I'll let you know what I'm feeling or whatever. And actually I spoke to her, I think in November, or maybe October, I can't remember which one. And we had a conversation, and she was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't want to retire. I'm not ready. I feel better. And I did, this September, October, November for me in Lyon, in a new place. I was here in this apartment just by myself, just really processing myself, accepting things that didn't go my way, and accepting my faults and the things that I'd done wrong, that I could have done better. And just ultimately also accepting failure, because ultimately that is what it was, and that's okay. Saying that is not a bad thing, and so when I got to that point, my initial response, which has always been my response, is, well, we go again. And so I rang Jane and I was like, yeah, I'll be there in January. You have everything like I've always given you for the next 2 years, and then it will absolutely be my last one. I don't think I can physically walk after this one, but that's how I got about it. It was a process, and you understand that, being an elite athlete, is giving time to yourself to process things, especially things that don't go your way, is probably one of the most important things that you can do. Your
mum has played a huge part in your career. Family, I hear you're close to your nephews back home. Do you you obviously enjoy going back home, but do you miss not being a part of that day to day and seeing your mum more often?
Yeah, it's something that is probably one of the most difficult things when I'm away, when I make these choices, is my family. I'm very close To all of them, but especially my mum and my dad, and my sisters now. My sisters now have children, so I'm very close to those two. And I you know, right now, one of Manny is 2.5, Joel is 1, just over 1, Griff is just over 1, is just over 1, and Will is 14, and I'm best friends with Will. Will is like he's my guy. You know, we're great. We're really good friends. And I've had a relationship with him throughout his career, which has been me never there, but whenever I go home, he always comes on camps, these will tell you. He's always there, and they always make sure that when I'm home, they come and see me. But I think now the older my mum and dad get, and the more active Will is and the kids get, it's really hard for me. And that's why being here has been great, because we're the same time zone. So, I mean, they call me all the time, and I call them all the time, you know. So it's better here for me, with my family, much better.
Do you actually like talking about football with your family? Because I remember whether it was after training and my mum and my dad had phone, and I just wouldn't want to talk football. So the conversations could be less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
How you been? Yeah, fine. How was training? Yeah, it was okay. What did you do? Just trained?
Yeah.
Or do you go a little bit more in depth?
Well, number one, you don't really know what's going on here, Dad, okay? Yeah. You're a rugby man, for one. I don't think you know the offside rules, so there's that. But when he messages me and he's like, what was the results? How was the game? Yeah, of course I feel like I need to speak to him about it, but not really. You know, the conversation is, yeah, we won. General. I don't talk about it, you know. It was fine. We were good, we were crap, we were bad, they were bad. Like, you know, that's about it, really. And even with Wales, even the last campaign, my mum didn't come to one game because she was unwell, and then we won it, and then she didn't come to another one for the same reason. So then she didn't come to any of the games because she was like, you're doing so well. Like, I'm not, even when we played England at home, my family rented out a box in Rodney Parade to go and watch it because there's so many of us. And she was like, I'm watching it at home on TV. I'm like, I'm like 20 minutes down the road and it's live and it'll be great. A little birdie tells me there is a famous night out in Germany. I don't know if there's a story. Oh my God. Where did you get that from? What happened? I don't know. I actually don't know the story. I'll tell you the story. It's brilliant. It's one of mine. So we go and play Germany in one of our Euro qualifiers, maybe. And I mean, we're in front of 25,000 maybe. And it's one of the first times we ever played in a stadium in front of such a crowd. Their goalkeeper was retiring, so it was a huge deal. I think we got a corner, and it was the first time we were ever in their half. So I go up to take the corner, and I'm like waving to the crowd like this. I'm like a kid. Yeah. So then afterwards, we lose, probably like 5 or 6. I don't really know what the score was. We go out and go to an Irish bar, I think, of course. And we go in, and I'm one of the first ones there, of course, I was. And as we go in, the game was on the TV, right? So the people at the bar knew who we were. So then they came over, Irish bar, 2 trays full of shots, whatever. So anyway, you could imagine, it got messy. Karaoke, we sang karaoke all night. Anyway, the next morning we're leaving, and it's early. So everyone's like dead. So I'm speaking to the manager, right? And like we're having a conversation, and I go to sit down on like the bush that was behind me, thinking that it was like sturdy, it's ready. Anyway, it just like parts like this. So as I'm speaking to our manager now, trying to hide the fact, trying to act so sober, and it's pouring out of me, I go and sit down and just fall in the bush, right? And the bush then is like over me. And I'm just laying there like this. And everyone then has just like turned around and just lost it, right? And I'm like, I'm done. Like my international career is over. Like because of this bush. Like I didn't even blame myself. I was blaming the bush. Of course it was the bush. It looked sturdy. So I can tell you now that stuff doesn't happen anymore. Kind of miss it, not gonna lie. What do you like to do in your spare time?
if we're talking hobbies, is there anything in particular that you've always had, or new things when you go to different countries?
To be honest, I wouldn't say that I have hobbies, which is crazy. I know. I like to read. I like to watch true stories, like true crime or documentaries that are like real, you know.
Footballers are boring, aren't they?
Yeah.
Anyone who I ask. But yeah, you just have to prepare for the next training session, don't you? You almost have to put things on hold until you retire.
Yeah, and sometimes it really does depend on how I'm feeling. But often than not, like when we train 3 days in a row, well, no, I'm not going to do anything because I'm tired and I need to relax and I need to make sure my body's recovered. But I do enjoy like an off day. If we have an off day, I do try and do something active. Or like last month, I went to Paris for the day, which was lovely, and went to the Alps actually 2 weeks ago, I think, just before we went to Spain, which was nice. I didn't ski, but it was just nice to be amongst the snow, which I haven't seen since I was a child, and just be in a different environment. It was really nice. So I like to do things when I have time, but if I don't have the time to do it, I honestly just sit on that sofa and either read, put music on. Music is my place of joy and relaxation. And just to get lost in that for a while, really, I'm really boring. Actually, I've just heard myself say all that and I really feel sorry for myself.
Don't be silly. How do you deal with your profile? Can you believe now, or would the young Jess Fishlock believe the profile that you would have in terms of the MBE that you had, your role as an LGBT ambassador? I think you're sponsored by Adidas, loads of different things like that. Hard to believe probably for the young Jess.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. I would never have thought for a second that this would be my life. I knew that I wanted to be a professional athlete and be a professional footballer and play football for my living. I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and I knew that I'd believe in myself to get there. But I didn't know that this would be who I was. This would be the life. These would be the choices that I made. That who I am as a person has led me to be a role model, an inspiration, an LGBT ambassador, and an MBE. I didn't think that just for being me, that I could do that, you know? I didn't know that was a possibility.
You got to pinch yourself sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, I really do.
These tattoos, that could be seen as a hobby.
Oh,
Getting
yes,
some tattoos
absolutely.
then. There you go. We found
Don't tell
them.
my mother that. She'll kill you for that.
Have they all got are they all special? Have they all got meaning?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have, I'll show you actually. I have, so this is a Harry Potter quote. All Harry Potter fans out there.
Yeah,
which is, I love Harry Potter, if anyone knows me. And then this is Lord of the Rings, which is true to me, which is...
You've just said that you like true detective and documentaries.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to have like serial killer quotes on my arm.
But I'm saying obviously there's more. Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, Harry Potter is like my thing,
There
if
you
everyone knows me. That's not a hobby, that's like a film. So not all those who wander are lost. Actually, when I saw where he committed his crimes in Seattle, that's how much of a weirdo I am sometimes. I have the Welsh flag, of course, you can see there. I have this old school Elvis mic because I love music, and the old stuff is the best, of course. I have Captain Jack Sparrow's compass. Do you know why, actually? I asked this question to everybody. Do you know why it was Captain Jack and not just a normal compass?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you. It's because it's the only compass that takes you to what your heart wants most. Okay. It's not just north, south, east and west.
Okay.
Which is true to me because I've traveled going to where I believe is the best thing for me in that moment, in that time. This is the skyline of Seattle, which the tattooist drew freehand. which I think is insane. And then all these animals are the kind of spirit of my whole family. So my mum and my dad, my sister, my other sister, my 2 brothers and my other sister. And all that took 9 hours in one sitting. And by the end of it, I was like shaking.
Really?
Because I think my body was about to go into shock. But it was worth it.
Did they get to choose what animal they were? Or was your sister like,
it was,
why am I a turtle?
100%, this is so true. My family did want a description of why I chosen those as for what it was, which was funny. And because they were like, I think it was Catherine with this penguin, was like, why am I a penguin? Like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I said, go to, I think it was Google at the time, and read what an imperial penguin stands for. Mm-hmm. So she went then, she read it, and then she rang me up, she was crying. Really? Oh my God, it's so nice. I was like, 2 seconds ago, you were having a go at me for giving you a penguin. And my mother was the same. My mother was like, I don't want it. My mother hates my tattoos. Yeah. So she was like, I don't want a tattoo for me. And then I showed her, and she was like, well, what is it? I'm like, it's a lion and a lioness. And obviously, like, the lionesses, like, rule everything and rule their husbands or whatever. So she went and looked it up, and she was like, you're damn right. That's me.
Oh, she liked tattoos then. Get
she
another
liked
one.
it, no, exactly, yeah.
What's next?
That's a great question.
As in, not tomorrow, you know, you've got important games here at Lyon, going for another Champions League at this massive club in Europe, back to Seattle then for their next season. What's next after football? Because you must be planning.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to coach. I'm doing my A license right now with the FAW Trust, which is a very long process. It's really hard for me to find the time that I need to dedicate to it.
It's a lot of coursework, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
If Oshan's listening to
this,
Oshan. 100 caps should get you off a little bit of coursework, no?
Condense it, please. No, but it is, and it deserves all my time, and I need to find the time to do it, but it just means it needs to take a little bit longer. So I'm doing that right now for the future, because I absolutely want to be a coach. I want to manage. It's definitely what I see in my future. But also, you know, I'm going to take some time when I finish, some real time, not like a month. I'm on about like a year or 2. Yeah. And I'm going to spend it with my family, you know, because they also deserve my time. And I want to see my nephew go through his teenage years terribly, probably, as we all did. And I want to help him through that. You know, I want to help the little kids turn 3 and 4 and 5. You know, I want to be a part of their lives. I don't just want to be somebody who drifts in and out of it. You know, I've done that for too long, and they do deserve some of my time. And so when I finish, I'm going to give them some time, and then I'm going to go on to what's next, which will be coaching and managing and something in that format with regards to football.
And even if you do travel, it'd be nice to travel without having to train to actually see places.
Exactly. Yeah, that is very, very true. Although I probably still will train, because I think it would be so ingrained in who I am that it would be very difficult to not do that.
Well, Jess, thank you very much for opening your doors
no, of course.
to your beautiful flat here in Lyon. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.